Hey everyone, welcome to RDLP. I'm Solon, and today we are playing Dysfunctional Systems, learning how to manage chaos. I'm really excited about this game. I don't know a lot about it, but the pieces that I do know have me so excited that it is my pleasure to share this with you. This is Dysfunctional Systems. This is an episodic interactive fiction, as far as I know, and my choices will predict the outcome of the game, like interactive fiction is wanting to do. Most importantly, this is a kickstarted game with really great music. And the title, Dysfunctional Systems, Learning How to Manage Chaos, intrigues me because the work that I do, a lot of social work that I do, a lot of the expression that I create with Let's Plays are about taking systems, taking games, and making sense of their chaos, or expanding on the absolute structures that they create. Games are often wanting to put us in cages, cages of binary moral choices, cages of linear tracks, cages of the range of options that we are allowed to make decisions by. This is very common that game designers want to hold the hand of their player, and this is not something that's just like something that's based around tutorial design, but the entire games themselves. So, when it comes to managing chaos, this is what we do in Let's Play, and so I'm absolutely excited to see what kinds of takes that interactive fiction like this, which looks absolutely adorable and is totally up my alley, and a lot of the content that I create on this channel is about this kind of stuff. I'm really excited and I want to see where this goes. So let's hit new story. Click along with me, guys. Working families across Brighton are no doubt issuing a collective sigh of relief today as the legislation for a minimum wage increase of 50 cents passed in Parliament early this morning. One friggin' line. One line. One of the most important things that is happening right now as far as decent social change is minimum wage increasing by very, very tiny amounts in local areas. SeaTac, the city between Seattle and Tacoma, raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour. SeaTac is a partial town that is run by its airport, the SeaTac airport. And so to have a $15 minimum wage is very substantial for a lot of the workers there. This is always the first system that we can look at is class. And when it comes to class, minimum wage, especially in the US, is something that dictates whether a class is in poverty or not, and most class working off of minimum wage is in poverty. They don't actually have enough to necessarily feed themselves and work in a way that is healthy or sustainable. So, one line, minimum wage increase of 50 cents, passed in Parliament early this morning. That's big news. This bill comes after public outcry that the majority of Brighton citizens are without enough income, too poor to make ends meet after the recent increase in food prices. There's a kick. The change brings minimum wage for workers working over 40 hours a week to $3.67 an hour, and workers working less to $3.20. Although welcomed by most, there's been stiff opposition toward the bill from foreign investors, primarily those from Gabrea. Major Gabrean companies such as Ujco and Norkley have warned that wage increases would hurt Brighton's economy, and arguing that the new rate would enforce more layoffs as they cannot afford as many employees. President Barnaby, who has been supportive of the legislation since its inception, retorted that well-fed employees were more productive, and reminded Ujco and Norkley representatives that employing a Brighton citizen was still over 16 times less expensive than employing a citizen of their home country. There's the system. There's the system full of its dysfunction, plain in front of you in 3 contextualized lines, 3 pages. You have the pressure from the people in power that have a lot of power over their companies that don't want to pay their citizens, or don't want to pay their workers, excuse me. And they commonly hide behind that idea that they can't afford to. And it's a tough line to ride, because that's a hard claim to go against. Is their company going to sink because they are outsourcing all of their work, and it relies on the outsourced cheap labor of foreign peoples? Don't think a 50-cent increase is going to be the difference maker in these companies. I promise you that. And then the stocks, however, take a moderate tumble after the approval of the legislation. President Barnaby assured citizens that the drop should only be temporary and that the markets will begin to rise again after the initial shock has subsided. With this minimum wage increase, Barnaby has finally fulfilled the last of the campaign promises made during his 1523 campaign trail. Whether or not he manages to accomplish his 1527 goals remains to be seen. With that, we conclude our hourly business report. Next up, the latest in entertainment news. Without a doubt, I still find it strange. Everything strange, it's bizarre. Really, if these worlds were nothing like my own, at least, then I could appropriately flip out. But no, they're similar, they're too similar. I keep slipping into a feeling of normalcy, only to have that sensation of strangeness slap me across the face at the first sign of something weird. There are plenty of weird sights around to do so too. Like, for instance, there's advanced-looking televisions in this decrepit-looking building, which I can only assume is an electronics store. They're the first things I've seen since arriving in this world that actually look somewhat new. Fancy, even. Up until now, everything's been old, ramshackle, and in various states of disrepair. It makes me feel nervous. It's just so profoundly disturbing. Will I ever get used to this? I think that I will, some year or decade from now, if my mentor is any indication. Look at him, standing there so aloof, as if this was just another day to him. Which, I mean, yeah, I guess I suppose it is. But what do I know? Nothing. Winter. Yeah? What do you think? Think, about what? About what we just saw and heard. Oh? To be honest, I wasn't really thinking about anything about it. Winter, we've only just started. Please try to focus. Oh yeah, I will, sorry. It's just, well, I'm still finding it a bit hard to wrap my head around the idea of destructive conflict. Well, of course, I was the same when I first started out. There weren't many examples of conflict at all in our world. Right. You might even find it surprising that war is actually a word in our dictionary. Totally. Yet still... Winter, you'll come to understand conflict very well, don't worry. After all, you'll be doing nothing but dealing with it. Lame. Well, anyway, you read the material on this world, right? Should have been your homework. Yeah, it was. Then tell me what you think. Perhaps it's time to admit that I didn't spend much of last night reading the material so much as turning the pages and glancing at them. I was tired and honestly found watching the bubbles in my soda significantly more captivating than the words in those files. The way they merge with each other, crawl up the glass, it's really incredibly pretty. You're certainly pondering hard over there, Winter. You must be whipping up a dazzling answer. Brighton is poor? That's a fact, Winter, not a thought. Sorry, what I think is, Nothing. Look, what I've learned so far in classes doesn't seem to be particularly applicable to this world. I'm finding it difficult to care. I mean, how can I care anyways? Besides all that, this is also disconnected from me. Plus, it's only my second world, for heaven's sake. I'm still flummoxed by the fact that other worlds exist. By the way, guys, other worlds exist. Kind of excited about this too, by the way. What am I supposed to think when they just toss me to these places, give me a pat on the back and say, "Be on your way, merry child"? Okay, actually, here's a thought. What kind of name is Brighton? It's a stupid name for a country. It sounds more like a town. The town of Brighton, population 40. Ugh, blah, I'll scream blah right at Cyrus and any other mentor who questions me like this. I mean, I won't, but I would. I completely, totally, and so would. For now, though, an awkward and wobbling smile is all that I shall muster. Blah. Well, whatever. What do you think the next step is? Alright, cool it, Winter, just remain calm. Genuinely consider the question. Thoughts, thinking here, we need to start the train moving. The next thing to do, we need to learn things that weren't given. Right. Sir, I couldn't ask my last mentor, why are the dossiers we get before we come to these places so thin? Well, it's because they're simply comprised of first-hand information. Noteworthy things that mediators have gathered through observation and gleaned from prior tips to the world. You're lucky you even have that much. Sometimes you get sent to worlds that have never been visited before. This is a weird kind of, like, anthropological exploration of other worlds, and I'm wondering where they're coming from on this. I think there might be a lot of ways we can use anthropology to look at what's happening here. How their system of exploring other worlds is comprised of. Let me tell you, it's never fun when a surprise dragon flies out from behind a mountain, or when you realize that the person you've been talking to is really just a convincing projection, or worse, a robot. And once you start giving in to systems that threaten your definition of what being a world even means, good luck. Then again, only experienced mediators have to deal with such things. You won't be going to any unvisited worlds, at least definitely not yet. Okay. Another question, why revisit worlds that have been helped? So we are providing aid to these worlds, or at least that might be a goal that Winter and Cyrus together, maybe they're different people of different worlds, coalition, who knows? I mean, once order is in place, everything should be fine, right? I mean, Cyrus frowns, but his expression seems more complicated than that. I say that because his frown isn't alone. In his eyes, there's a glint of irritation directed at no one in particular. As any glint, it's gone in a second, replaced by another thing I can't quite decipher. Part of me is curious as to what it is, but most of me doesn't care. Here's another short answer. Because chaos cannot be contained or removed. Although it can be lessened by us, it will rise again over time. Wow, that's vague. No, Winter, I'm on with you. Is the correct answer to that. Sir, are you saying there's no point to anything? No. Chaos is not inherently bad, Winter. Oh, excuse me, I'm working on this. Chaos is not inherently bad, Winter. It's the means by which all worlds are born and continue, even ours. Furthermore, it's the spark of evolution, and it plays a key part in those mutations which allow life to grow and improve itself. However, for life to succeed, there must also be order. It's like how cells must work together and organs must serve their purpose. You see, a system where chaos is stronger than order is likely to collapse, just as an organism which has succumbed to disease is likely to die. In short, we're not here to eradicate chaos, Winter. only to keep it in check. An interesting way of putting it, but still really vague, and could be strife with problem. So I want to see where this goes.